Good morning to all of you. Welcome to this mediation, which, as you know, is under the auspices of Mediation in Motion, and that at the pre-mediation meeting, I think you may recall that you appointed me to mediate this dispute. I want to thank you very much for having that trust in me today. Let me start off with my preference is for mediation to be informal. You know, I would prefer to be called Jacques. And I just want to know from all of you, as you introduce yourself, whether you'd be happy for me to use your first names. And I want to start with you, Mrs. Skippers. You go first.
I'm Carmen.
Oh, yes?
And I'm Piet's mother. And I'm married to Sam.
Okay, thank you. Are you, may I address you as Carmen?
Yes.
Are you happy with that? Thank you very much. And you, Mr. Skippers?
Good morning, I'm Zain Skippers. I'm the father of Piet, and you may with pleasure address me as Zain.
Thank you very much for that. Romany Sutherland,
yes,
your attorney, and
yes, Jacques, please call me Romany.
You're happy with Romany?
Of course.
Okay, fantastic, thank you.
I'm Lisha de Villiers,
Yes.
and you can call me.
Go on, Alicia.
And I'm from the hospital. I'm a superintendent.
At the hospital. Thank you very much for that. Mr. Nelson?
Yes, I'm Alan Nelson, and I'm here at the department, and you can call me Alan.
Thank you very much. Right, so we've got that out of the way. We're going to be informal today. And I'm going to just explain to you, well, first maybe I should just really commend you for coming to the mediation. It's a very fruitful process if we work very hard towards trying to find a solution here today. Are you ready to proceed? I just want to make sure you're comfortable, you've got everything you want, we can proceed now with the mediation. Are you happy with that? Can we proceed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Right. When you went to the pre-mediation meeting, it would have been explained to you how mediation works, but I think let's just recap a little bit on it so
I
that
appreciate that.
we're all on the same page. And everything I do as a mediator is to ensure that there's a safe space for everybody here to speak their minds and to speak to each other and to talk about their concerns and what's important to them. So I must just reassure you that this whole process is without prejudice, which the attorneys here will know very well, and I'm sure everybody else here as well. But I just want to explain it again, is that any concession that is made during this process, or admission or apology that's made, cannot be used in a court of law if the mediation is unsuccessful. So I just want to stand at the moment here is that this is really an opportunity to speak freely, because it can't be used what you said here in a court of law. Secondly, mediation is also confidential. So everything that is said here should stay here. Certainly, if this case is not resolved, the parties won't be able to raise whatever was said here in during litigation. So there's a lot of protection here for all of us here, so that we can have this safe environment where we can talk to each other and try and find a solution. Are there any questions about that? No questions about that. Then I want to, something that Mediation in Motion we feel very, very strongly about is the fact that mediation is a voluntary process. So you've decided to come to mediation, and I've commended you for that. But if at any stage during this process that you feel uncomfortable, you feel the process isn't giving you what you need from it, can I ask you that you agree to spend maybe a few minutes with me just to explain what your reasons are? And so that I could see whether your concerns could be addressed. So it's important that I really get very specific buy-in from everyone here. And I want to start, Carmen, are you happy with that? If at any stage you feel you'd like to leave, you would first speak to me in private for a while about that?
Yes.
Thank you. And then you as well? Romany, is that
Yes,
also
no,
something?
that's fine.
That's
I
also
agree
good
with
for
that.
you.
Mhm.
Okay. And Lisha, you good as well? Alan,
Yeah.
you're good as well. Okay. All right. Then I know from the agreement to mediate, which was signed during the pre-mediation agreement, that you've come to this mediation with settlement authority, and this is possibly more important on this side here. Lisha,
Yes, I do confirm
that's covered. That's all resolved. Now, what's going to happen today is I'm going to have a short private session, very short private session with each of you, just to prepare you for what we call the opening stage of the mediation, and that's when. And I will start with Carmen and Zain. We'll tell the hospital and Alan why we are here, what is the background to that. But before that happens, I first want to have a quick coaching session with either parties. And I'm going to start off with Alan and Lisha. I'll have a very short coaching session with them. and then I will have a short coaching session with Carmen, with you and Zane, and then I'll bring both parties together, and then you'll be able to make your opening statements. And then I would probably use private sessions throughout the course of the morning to try and find out what's really important to you so that we can move forward. Okay. Any questions? Lisha, Alan, do you have any questions? Any questions? Zane? No questions. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, unfortunately, we're only using this one room. I would have preferred to have 2 rooms, but we're going to have to do with what we've got. So, unfortunately, when I do the private session with the hospital, I'm going to ask maybe Roman, if you and Carmen and Zane are prepared to just wait outside for me for a while, and then we'll call you back later. And there's some tea and coffee out there too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alicia, how are you guys? You guys well?
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's a big step to be here, and I really hope that I can help, and my job is to work equally hard for both parties. So I'm going to work hard. I'm not just going to sit here. I'm going to work to see whether we can find a solution today. So Alicia, I think at this stage, if I can ask you and Alan to perhaps just listen to what Carmen and Zane have to say. It's going to be probably quite emotional, but I think it will be important to listen to hear what they've got to say. And I know it's not going to happen, but I'm going to also ask you to agree not to interrupt when they're talking. So let them speak their minds, and you get the opportunity to speak as well. And both of you can speak. There's no formality to it. Both of you will have a chance to speak. Mm-hmm. And of course, I'm going to ask them also to listen to you. When you speak. And once that's done, then we'll have the joint session, and then at that joint session. We will finish that joint session, and then I'll go into private sessions afterwards. Is there anything that I could explain to you better, or were you on the same page as I? Are you happy with what I'm saying? Okay. Right, thank you very much. As in the case of the skippers, I'm going to have to ask you to wait outside for a while the skippers come inside. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. I just want to start off to say that I'm really terribly sorry for the loss that you've suffered, Carmen and Zane, both of you. And it's something that I'm aware that it must be really, really difficult for you in the situation that you're in. And I want to assure you that I'm neutral, but at the same time I'm going to work very hard for you and for both parties. That's my job here today. So I just want to get that off my chest to say that I'm really sorry for your loss. Okay, what's going to happen now, Carmen and Zane, is you're going to have the opportunity to tell the hospital what happened and how it has affected your life and what your concerns are. It doesn't have to be long because I will have the opportunity to speak to you in private sessions. So to find out more about what happened, what has had an effect on you. But I think it's really important for you to make use of this opportunity to tell the doctor, to tell the hospital how this terrible experience has affected you. Carmen, are you okay with that? Are you willing to do that? Who's going to speak for you? Do you both want to speak, or which of you would like to speak?
I'll speak.
Would you speak, Zane? Okay. And Carmen, if you want to add anything, you're most welcome to participate.
Jacques, sorry, I'm just a little bit concerned. I can see already my clients are getting quite upset, and is there, I'm just worried that they're going to be more traumatized by this process than they would have been. Facing the hospital is extremely hard for them, and I'm just worried that they're going to be traumatized.
Yes, and I hear your concern, and I think it is always a concern in a process like this. Just want to mention that it's certainly, litigation is possibly the most traumatic thing a human being can go through. Yeah. But I will also do whatever I can to protect them from what's called secondary trauma. I think you're referring to that, reliving the experience.
Yeah.
So
it's just, the wounds are quite raw still.
Yes, yes. So I would ask all of you, if any of you feel uncomfortable because it's becoming too emotional for you, we will break and give you time to collect yourself. But I think we need to push on here to find a solution. Carmen, you all happy with that?
Thanks.
Okay. And the other thing is, I just want to remind you that that when Lisha and Alan speak is to give them also opportunity to speak and to agree that you won't interrupt them. I think it's important that we get that agreement common, and you're also happy with that.
We'll try.
You're happy with that, yes. Okay, and if you've got something to a note, if you want to, you can make a note of anything that you feel that's important you want to ask them later. Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to call them in quickly, and then we can proceed to the joint session. Thank you, Lisha and Alan, for taking the time. Okay, I normally start when it comes to opening statements. I start with the patient, and I think it's the right thing to do in this situation. So it doesn't mean I'm choosing sides. I mean I'm going to work equally hard for everybody in this mediation. So Zane, I think that you wanted to start off with your experience, and just tell Lisha and Alan about that.
Where does a parent start with this? When me and my wife first found out that we were expecting, it was the happiest time of our life. It was like, wow, we're expecting our first baby boy. For me as a father, I could actually brag to my friends and tell them the most beautiful baby boy is gonna be born very soon, and maybe he's gonna be a sports star one day. I personally had so much expectations for my boy. Like, I was gonna be the one to teach him how to kick his first soccer ball. We were looking forward to the moment where he would utter his first word, like mama or dada. But when our baby was born, we were ecstatic. We were over the moon. But 4 days later, it was like the mat was pulled right from under us when we found out that our baby boy, Pete, just to make it clear, Pete, we named him after his late grandfather. After 4 days, we found out that Pete was diagnosed with jaundice that caused a brain disease, brain damage actually, sorry. We realized that our boy wasn't normal. It was actually sad because our boy would never be able to speak properly like any other child. He wouldn't be able to run around. I wouldn't be able to teach him how to ride a bike. We wouldn't be able to go on holidays and enjoy it like most families do. We would never share in that moment when he would maybe go to creche like a normal child, or his first day at school, take a picture in his first school uniform. Yeah, I just feel like the hospital must know that we actually blame them for this. We just would like to know as parents why the pre-birth, why they couldn't see anything, why they didn't do more like tests and stuff, so that we could also know before taking the baby home. Why make us all this, why let us make all these plans while they were negligent? And this is also putting strain on my marriage because we argue a lot. Maybe it takes up a lot of our time. We never have time for ourselves or to bond as a family, because it's always pit. And we want the government as well to know that they must take responsibility for this. They must actually come see what this is doing to us, because this is so heartbreaking.
Can I add something?
Yes, of course.
For me as a young mother, sorry, it makes me very emotional. For me as a young mother who carried Pete for 9 months, I had this big dream, this vision for my child to be something that I never could have become. Now that I see my child is struggling with daily things like he can't walk properly, he can't even sit. How am I able to cope with this? As I see the children around him, the same age as him, he can walk, he can play normally, he can eat. My child will never be able to do this. And it's all the hospital's fault. I think they should pay for what they've done to my child.
Okay, I'm going to suggest that if you feel you need a quick break just to recollect yourself, we can do that. It really is for you. Do you feel you just need a few minutes on your own?
We could just have a few minutes, please.
Okay, then we can proceed with the matter. I'm just wondering. Yes, let's do that. Yes, let's do that. We just have to also be aware of the time, but let's do that.
Okay.
So just a quick break would maybe be the right thing to do. Then you can come back when you're finished. Thank you. Thank you, Jane and Carmen for sharing that. And I'm now going to ask Leisha and Alan to say what's on their minds.
Obviously, I'm very sorry for what's happened to you, and I hope that this process can come to some kind of agreement between us. Maybe give them a bit of closure.
Okay. Is it all you'd like to say at this stage?
I think so.
Okay. Alan?
No, there's nothing I would add. We do want to talk inside session.
Okay, we'll make use of side sessions. Okay, thank you very much to all of you. We're now going to go into the side session portion of mediation, and I think it's just the right thing to start off with the patients and then with the first private session. If it feels it's taking a bit of time, it just means I really need to spend more time to find out what's going on so that I can help everybody here move on, because essentially that's what my brief is, to help you to move on, so if I can. So I'm going to then start with my private sessions with Zane and Carmen and Romani. If I can ask you and Alan, perhaps if you could have some coffee outside, and thank you. I just want to make sure we're all. Thank you. Everything you say to me in this private session is confidential and private, so just want you to know that I'm not going to disclose anything that you tell me to anybody, whether that's whoever that is. I'm not going to disclose it without you giving me your express permission. So if you tell me something that I think could help solving this case, then I will ask you permission to use that and take that to Alan and Leisha. But otherwise, everything that is said here is private and confidential. So I want you to just know that you're in a safe place to talk. Okay. And it's important for me, I know it's difficult, very difficult for you, it's important for me to get to know you a bit better. Tell me, Carmen, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
As I said, I'm Carmen Skippers, I'm Pete's mother. I did finish matric and go to college. I studied management assistant. And a few months later, during my practicals, I found out that I was pregnant with little Pete. And yes.
Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, and we live in Paul.
Okay. So you and Zane are married, and you live together in Paul, and you say you were studying, if I heard that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. What were you studying?
Management assistant.
Okay. So you were planning to work then into the job market, as they speak, at some point. When were you going to complete your studies?
I can't complete my studies because I was looking after my little boy.
Okay, I see. So you've had to suspend your studies because of that.
And I don't think I will be able to finish my course because Pete needs my attention 24 hours.
Tell me a little bit about, and Zane, you are welcome to also to come in here. What did means to have a child with cerebral palsy? How does it affect your life?
Phew. Hectic.
I think our coming there as the father, it's very, very difficult for us in a way that we don't ever have time to spend together. We always get into arguments, and she's always tired, and me, I work long hours a day. I get tired at home at nights. I'm also actually never there to look after Pete. Now and then on weekends when I have the time, I would do so. But she's actually the rock. She's actually the one that she has to sit up with Pete during the nights. It's a hectic lifestyle to live for youngsters. A young, happily married couple that we were just before Pete got born. Yeah, looking after Pete is time consuming. I mean, like my wife said, it's 24 hours Pete needs her. Me myself, I'm not able to study. I can't afford my driver's license, and I missed a huge promotion at work because I didn't have a driver's license, and I can't afford to pay for it because the money that I earn, it has to go to Pete.
Tell Jacques about how many hours you spend. I mean, you spend. What time? He goes to work at what time in the morning?
I leave at 5:30 to be at work at 6.
What work do you do?
I'm a builder.
You build, and you work.
Yes.
You build in the area, yeah, or
Yes, we take contracts, not big ones, but mostly small ones. I work in a family business.
a family building business.
Yes, family building business. Like I said, I'm the breadwinner, and it stretches as far as that. It's difficult with a child like Pete because he needs to be monitored.
As my husband said, we don't have a lot of time for each other.
So it had an
It's a
impact
big
on your
responsibility.
relationship as well,
Yes.
on your marriage. Yes.
I don't have time for myself. The sleepless nights. Sometimes it feels like I just want to give up.
Carmen has been diagnosed with severe depression, and she has advised me on numerous occasions that she doesn't know what she's doing most of the time. And, although the clinics will tell her, oh, your child needs this therapy and that therapy, they don't tell her how to get it. And it's just the most horrific, situation that they're in now. And, that's why one of the reasons why we've considered mediation is perhaps that they can get some sort of respite sooner than they would have in a court case, which we all know takes many years. It's already been 2 years, and although I've been on board for a little bit of time in order just to get a few expert reports together in terms of quantum, this family needs some help. They need some help now.
Okay.
And may I add that sometimes it feels like my only solution is going to the alcohol. Sometimes when I finish my work at nights, I just don't have the energy to go home because all I think about it's gonna be Pete again. Sometimes it feels like, and I'm sorry to say it, and it hurts me a lot to say it, like Pete is becoming a nuisance in a way because he can't do anything by himself for a boy of 2 years. And I don't want to be like that. I don't want to go do alcohol, but sometimes it feels like it's the only thing that relaxes me in a way.
It takes the pain away.
Okay. What you've told me is just it's really it's a very, very sad thing that's happened to you. What I've also hear that the impact of having young Pete at your house has put a lot of strain on the family. It's really There's not time for anything else but to look after him. So I also understand that there's some consequences now that Carmen, for depression, for instance, is there any treatment for Carmen for depression at the moment or not?
Well, she's receiving medication, Carmen, that's right, from the clinics, but sometimes she goes there and they don't have the medication, and that's also a problem. And she needs counselling, but she doesn't have time to go for counselling. And Jacques, another thing, if I may, we sent all the documentation off to a few of the people at the Better Ops program for a report, and that report has been forthcoming.
Who's the Better Ops? I've never heard of that.
Better Ops it's actually SASOG, which is the South African Obstetrics and Gynecological Association, have met, and they have a panel of experts, really, and between 3 and 5 of them will then consider a case and give their opinion as to whether there is negligence.
Oh, so it's a liability aspect.
Yes.
Okay. And have you got such a report?
We have,
okay.
And they actually managed to bring in a neonatologist as well, and they found that because of the rhesus incompatibility initially, which should have been picked up during Carmen's pregnancy, and it wasn't tested for, that can lead to jaundice. It can cause jaundice. But okay, that was the first problem. Second problem was when they took little Pete to the hospital when he was highly jaundiced. They sat in the waiting room for hours and hours and hours. This child wasn't even properly diagnosed. There's nothing in the notes about jaundice. And so he wasn't diagnosed and obviously not treated. And then a couple of days later, they send little Pete home and they tell the parents, sorry, he's brain damaged. They don't explain, how to look after him. They don't explain what happened. And to be honest with you, I think it is not right. They have that report as well, and they should have admitted liability already. They should admit that they were wrong and concede the merits of this claim. It is actually not acceptable that they haven't.
Okay, thank you for that. I think I've got a broad idea that I understand that liability is still in dispute, and obviously I'll be spending a bit of time with them in private to talk about that. And it's common cause that they're also in possession of this report. It's not something, so I can talk
Alan
about the
suggested it in the
so I
first
can
place.
talk to them about the report.
Please do.
You don't have a problem with that. So I think I've got quite a bit of information which you've given me. Thank you for that. Just giving me an idea about how traumatic and how difficult the situation has been for your clients.
It's been 32 million rand difficult.
Okay.
That is what we're claiming.
Okay.
And
maybe
that's just a portion of it as well.
Have you got a schedule of your heads of damages that you're claiming?
Yes.
You do have one.
Yes, we're claiming. Yes, I have a schedule of the future medical expenses, but I have amounts for the other heads of damages.
And has that been sent? Do they have a copy of it as well?
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right. What I'm going to ask you to do now is I need to speak to them as well. They've been out for it. So Carmen, I just want to make sure that you're with me on this, and you and Zane. I'm going to have a private session with them. But when you're outside, I want you to start thinking. Just putting your solution cap on and start thinking about solutions. It may be that there are solutions available that aren't monetary in nature. I'm not sure. But I think it's time for you when you're outside, while I'm speaking to them, is that you spend some time thinking about solutions. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, Lisha. Hello.
Hi.
You back here?
Yes.
Before we kick off, just to remind you that in this private session, everything is confidential, and I'm not going to disclose anything to the skippers or to Romany under any circumstances without your express permission. So this is really a safe place for you to talk now to me in this private session, Alicia. Before we just rush into this thing, I just want to put my cell phone away. I just want to have an idea just about who you are. And I know Alan's you're the legal advisor for
The department.
for the department. But tell me a bit about you. I mean, your work as a superintendent.
Yeah, I've been at the specific hospital for about 7 years now, but have been a superintendent in total for about 10 years. So I've been at another state hospital prior, and I'm a general practitioner before that, so I'm a qualified doctor.
Okay.
And then decided after a couple of years to go more into the administration side, running of hospitals.
It's a government hospital, that's
Yes,
right. And what's the caseload, workload, the patient load?
Oh, it's massive. Like you can imagine. I mean, the hospital is seriously understaffed. I think most state hospitals struggle with the same problems, and it's difficult to keep things going. You know, financially, it's difficult. I mean, we don't have paying clients, and there's just a massive amount of people that needs help. So it is a lot of stress on me and also on the rest of the staff at the hospital.
I suppose, I mean, the superintendent is a little bit like the CEO of a company, and you're responsible, you execute and you give leadership and you implement policy. That's what you do.
Absolutely.
Which means you've got massive responsibilities on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe if you could just, you heard the Skipper family talk about the experience, and maybe what happened from your side. Maybe you want to tell me a little bit more about that. What is yours? How do you see what happened, and if there's anybody to blame, maybe to speak about that as well.
Yeah, look, it's terrible. It's just horrific. I mean, I cannot imagine what they must be going through. And obviously I didn't want to say anything in front of them initially, but I mean, there was definitely, I went through over all the notes, all the nurses' notes, and also from the doctor, and there was definitely some slip-ups from our side. And I must also then stress the reason for these slip-ups is problems that we have with understaffing, overworked staff, just a massive amount of patients that they have to handle and see and treat. And so I can also understand from their point of view how something like that could have happened. But it's just so terrible. I mean, it's just terrible. And then the nurses as well that was on call on the day just feels horrific.
Traumatized by this as well.
Absolutely. It's a little baby.
Yeah, since we're in a confidential side session, perhaps I should tell you that we at the pre-mediation decided not to have a look at this Better Ops program. We used it once before in another mediation that we did. It worked very well, but essentially the experts have analysed all the records and they've spoken to the staff, and looking at the report that we've received from the society, which has included also consultation with neonatal paediatricians, that there doesn't seem to be any doubt that the hospital is negligent and therefore is liable. So, just so you know that.
Okay, good. Is the hospital willing to concede this aspect, or is it something that you're holding back at this stage?
Look,
liability?
This is without prejudice. So without prejudice basis, I think we can accept that and move on from here and try and find a solution, whatever it may be, to the problem. That our difficulty is that we have received a letter from the attorney for the parents in which we've listed claims running up to 32 million rand. And this is quite normal, these sort of claims. We've been faced with these sort of claims for some time now in the department, and it's placing an enormous strain on the department, so much so that we can't render proper medical services. This comes out of the hospital's budget, so the hospital has to forfeit money that it would have used for upgrading and for better equipment and for better services to pay these claims. So as the department, we are looking at other solutions. We feel that we've got to change this, and one of the things that we're looking at is to look after the needs of the children and also the parents of the children that for whom we're responsible when something goes wrong with a hospital like this. And one of these ways is to have a child like this placed into an institution where the child's properly cared for, and there are some really fabulous facilities that are available in the market at the moment. And if we can place a child in one of these facilities with other children that are in the same position, it's of course good for the child in a sense, but all of these crazy claims for pediatricians and therapists and psychologists, and all of those facilities are available at these organisations, but because they are shared between so many patients, they end up costing a hell of a lot less than if, as Roman is claiming in a letter, we have to provide for individual consultations at a different hospital and a different doctor in a different place in all of these disciplines. And the same applies to facilities like, electrified chairs and special building of houses and changes here and there in the next place. If the children are well cared for in these institutions, then the cost of those things drops dramatically. In fact, on our calculations, it's about 1/8 of what it would cost to allow the parents to do this privately. And we would like to advocate that as a potential solution to this problem, that the government will put the money up so that PIT can be placed into one of these establishments. And there is a local one here in Paarl that we're aware of, and the facilities are fantastic. They really are very good. So that's our suggestion as an alternative to this massive amount of money that people are demanding. And we have our doubts that money actually eventually finds its way for these facilities. And there's a lot of double dipping going on in the sense that the department pays the money, and then it's utilised for other purposes, and the patients end up coming to state hospitals anyway, and getting treated by our professionals anyway. So we are we're faced with double jeopardy in that way, and we think that this is the solution, and we'd like to put it forward to the Skipper's family. Through you, or however you want us to do it.
Would that entail young Pete being admitted at this hospital or not hospital?
It's more like a home. It's like it's
a CP home.
Yeah, it's a CP home. It's a very specialised institution where everybody that's there is highly qualified to deal with people with the disabilities that these children have. So, and we can provide facilities for, as I say, 8 to 10 children at what it's costing us for one now. So we would really like to see whether that would be acceptable to this family.
Okay. Do you know whether they've seen this home before?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. And how far is it? Is it how far is it from where they live? I mean,
no, it's not far. I think it would probably take about half an hour from here to go and inspect the facility.
Can I propose the following? Is that I think it's important that if we can build some trust, it will be easier for us to negotiate all the other aspects, such as including whether they're willing to go to the home, or to send Pete to the home rather than raise Pete themselves, which in my experience mothers tend to want to. Maybe they feel guilty, they feel they need to look after the child themselves. I think it may be a worthwhile experience, that a worthwhile thing to do is to find it that we have a joint session. At least it's going to be difficult, but to tell them what happened and what you're sorry for, but actually be quite precise about that. Not vaguely. You're sorry because you feel the nurses, for instance, should have done X, Y, and Z, and they didn't, and you're sorry about that. If you keep it too vague, then I think it may not come across sincere. So I think that's important, and if that trust is rebuilt, then I will propose to them that they consider the possibility. I'll do that in a private session of sending their son, having their son admitted to the house, and then I'm going to suggest to them that they do an inspection, maybe this morning still, because it's not too far from here, and then come back here and report back to us about what they saw there. Would that be a way to work with this?
So if I apologise does the hospital admit that they were guilty? Can that be is that a good idea?
Well, the apology happens in the context of this protected environment, so it can't be used against you. They can't stay in court, but you admitted anything. So that's important.
It's without prejudice.
It's without prejudice. But I think that if you open and if you explain to them, and I think they could see that it has affected you too, I think that would help a lot to build some trust. Then the rest of the things the loose ends we can negotiate. If we can get past that, the elephant in the room here, which, from my experience, is this huge CP claims that Alan talks about, and this alternative. Are there any other examples where this is happening in South Africa?
Yes, there's a clinic I think it's in Robertson, and there are a few in Gauteng already. And it's going to become the norm, we think, in time to come.
Sounds to me will make sense for government to have something like that. Okay, great. I'm going to then. Do you want any assistance about how to approach them? How to, in terms of your apology and how you need to do it, or do you think you?
I think I'll be all right if you say that.
Okay, I just want
to. What you mentioned.
Yeah, it's difficult for us to apologise, human beings.
Yeah.
And it's easy to take back an apology by saying but.
Yeah.
So if you can make an apology just straight on, and then just say you're sorry, and then I think it'll be more effective. Alan, I don't want to tell you how to do it, but I think
they want me, just to make it clear, they want me to explain what happened.
Yes.
And then to just hear that
it was wrong. It wasn't their fault. It was something that happened, and you're very sorry for it that it happened.
And do they want to know why it happened?
I think they would just want to know perhaps what if you can explain to them in layman terms, just say to them that the nurse should have done the test at a particular time or anything like that. Then I think it will go a long way to rebuild trust or build trust with them. Okay. Are you ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay, Alan, we're ready. Okay, now let's just go to the next stage. I'm going to call them. You can stay where you are. Thank you, Carmen, and thank you. I wanted to get you together in a joint session. We may do further private sessions again, but I think it's important, and I think that Alicia's got something something on her heart that she wants to share with you, and then we can take it from there. Alicia, are you ready to?
Jacques has explained in the previous session that you would like me to explain what possibly could have happened that led to your child having the problems that he does. I want to start off by saying that I'm so sorry for Carmen Zane for what happened. Obviously, all of us feel terrible at the hospital. Myself, it really is. I cannot even imagine what you must be going through. So with the specific thing, like I said, I did go over the notes, and it looked like everything was normal with the birth. There was, right after the baby was born, nothing was, didn't look abnormal or anything. So the baby and the mother was sent home, and like it often happens, babies get jaundice, and then they did the right thing. I want to stress that I did the right thing of bringing the baby back to the hospital. Where the big problem came in, I think, is that they didn't receive the help that they needed for the jaundice quickly enough.
Okay.
And then this led to the baby having brain damage. And I mean, the nurses should have been able to pick it up and treat it immediately. And it's not anything that you did wrong or that you waited too long to bring the baby. It could have happened even after the 4 days. It could have happened up until a week after the baby was born. So the problem is the baby should have been looked after when they brought the baby back with the jaundice immediately. And I apologize for the fact that this was not done. So I'm very sorry. And I can also convey that the nurses that was on call is extremely sorry for what happened.
Okay, Nisha, thank you very much for that. Okay, I think best for me now is to have private sessions with the skippers. Or do you want to respond, or you not have to? But do you want to respond to the apology? Not yet. Okay, good. Then I'll just continue with the private session. I won't be long. So you're doing very well, really you are. I mean, you've crossed the first hurdle, which is a hurdle that the hospital is now taking responsibility and expressly said that you're not responsible for this loss. And you must remember this as parents, because going forward in your lives, you're not responsible. It's really important. Okay. Do you have anything, Romany, to add? It seems to me that hurdle is out of the way. So
Yes, quite surprised and yes, no, not really, Jacques. Interesting. But we still have the money to talk about.
Yes, of course.
And I don't want them to waste my time when it comes to that. If it's going to be a problem, I just want to issue summons and get this. Let it go the normal way. So, although that was, personally, I think it was really awesome to see, and it was good. But I can just, all I can do for my clients is hope that they are like this, and when it comes to so reasonable when it comes to looking at the quantum.
Okay. Good. So we are now moving on to the issue of quantification of
Yes.
your damages. That's what we're going to be talking about now, focusing on now. There's something that I just need to, I need to get permission just from Alan and Leisha about something I want to share with you, and I'm not sure that I got that permission. So if you give me just 2 minutes of your time, I just going to ask him. I know they're somewhere in the building. Just give me a moment. Thank you. Okay. Carmen and Rein, what I've heard you tell me and everybody else here is that it's really been difficult for you and as a family, to have a son with this condition of cerebral palsy, and maybe you can, I don't know if I even asked you, the most important impact that it's had on you as a family, I would imagine, is that it's just taken over your life. It's that's what you need to concentrate on all the time. Am I right? And that it's really difficult for you. It's putting a lot of strain on your putting strain on your relationship. I hear that other issues have come up, like depression. So things are really, really difficult. Having this young boy at your home at the moment.
Carmen, would you like to maybe tell Jacques what a day is like in your life? I mean, it's just a horror story, Jacques.
Okay. Would you like to tell me, Carmen?
It's okay, Carmen. Well, perhaps, Jacques, if I could start off. We have to look forward and almost crystal ball gaze in certain respects, but in other respects, we have a bunch of experts who have looked at little Pete's current condition and the developmental problems that he already has. He cannot sit. He keeps on falling over to one side. He cannot eat. He's incontinent. And, there's reports that that's not going to change. He will need a wheelchair. He'll need occupational therapy, speech therapy, physiotherapy. He'll need urologists and pediatric neurologists. And Carmen, tell Jacques about your sister's child with the epilepsy and how it scares you. Hey?
My sister also had a baby boy, about 5.
And he gets epileptic fits. And Carmen has said to me before how absolutely frightening it is. And it's one of her big fears. And there is a chance that Pete is going to suffer from this. So that all needs to be looked at and taken care of. And, above all else, Carmen needs help. She is not coping. She has a back injury. She's on antidepressants. She's on anxiety medication. She's on sleeping medication because she can't sleep. And then that's a problem for Zane, because then Zane has to try and stay awake when she gets a little bit of sleep. And then he almost doesn't sleep that whole night and then has to go to work. So it's not working. So the main idea is to just, get them someone to help care
Yeah.
for little Pete, and also to teach Carmen how to look after him.
Mm.
So that is why, you know, it may sound like a big amount, this 32 million, but we need to look after little Pete for the rest of his life.
Mm. Well, that money is for future medical treatment, isn't it?
Future medical expenses.
Expenses.
Is most of that, yes.
Okay.
Well, the majority of that.
Mm.
We have past, very small amount of past hospital and medical expenses that we're claiming. The future meds, and then the loss of earnings, loss of earning capacity for little Pete, and general damages.
Okay, so what I hear here is that having a child with CP is really very difficult, because on the one hand you really love your child and you feel that you should have your child with you all the time. But I want to ask you, have you ever considered, I understand that there are some facilities that the government is opening at the moment for CP children. Are you aware of these facilities?
I don't know about that. That's...
You don't like the idea. Are you aware of facilities, a house or home for where
Yes, I'm aware of it. There's a new one open near to us. But I don't want little Peter to go there.
Okay.
I don't want my child to be at this institution. I want to take care of myself.
You wanted your child to be safe. I think that's the most important thing for her, isn't it? I mean, to be safe and looked after.
I don't think that's... Yeah, it's not possible. I don't see how that could work.
Are they going to love him the same way that we do?
I think in the new when he's hungry. We can't do it. I knew all the signs.
They're not
And
even
you know,
going to have
you see on the
patients that we have at home with people.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've seen on the TV that what the nurse, you know, the nurses and I mean, if the parents sort of aren't there, what is the nurses going to do to the children? I mean, there's been a huge, you know, this is highlighted in the press, especially lately. And no, I don't know. Hey?
You know, I can't tell you what's best for your clients and what, you know, but I do think that there is some benefit in visiting this place and just seeing what's happening there and looking at it and forming an opinion and making an informed decision. I don't know if you've actually been to this place.
No.
Have you actually had a look at it? Anybody been to this home?
What place is this? Is it especially for CP children?
It is especially for CP children. I don't want to be promoting this place but I do think it would be wise for you. We could have a break in the mediation for you to have a look and speak to whoever is in charge.
Well, what did they say? Are they only going to help him if they put them in an institution?
I'm just trying to sort of see if there are possible other ways of resolving this matter.
And what role are we going to play in his life when we send him there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a decision I think that you must make when you've got all the facts at your disposal. Then you can make that. Then you should make that decision. So I'm not trying to force you in that direction. I'm just saying that's something I think you may want to look into. And then it will probably take you an hour, 10 minutes to drive there. And
okay, so is there someone that can perhaps speak to us, take us through how's it going to work?
Well, what we can do is perhaps you can phone, if we break down, you could phone the institution and tell them you want to bring people to see who may need their services. And then have a look, and there's no pressure. I mean, you know, your client has all its rights to do whatever it wants to do, you know, but I think it would be important for them just to see there will already be children at this place.
As long as this place is not run by the state.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, okay, are you happy with that? We're going to see what they're talking about.
Are you good with that?
Are you okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, then we're going to adjourn now. I will also just let Alan and Lisa know, and then we'll in an hour's time, if that's good for you to come back.
Yes.
Is that good? Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
See what they're up to. Oh, it was quite interesting.
Yes. Yeah. What was your experience? Did you have a look at it? Comment. What was your experience of this home for CP people?
I think it's great. It's a private institution.
Is it a private institution?
Yes.
I was wrong. I heard. Yeah. Anyway, private institution. Yes. And the facilities.
They seem to have all the facilities that little Pete is going to need.
Yeah.
And the staff also, they seem very competent and they seem to be knowing what they're doing.
They have speech therapists, they have an occupational therapist, they have a physiotherapist, and they have a GP that can refer if there's any problem out, which is quite interesting. And they have lovely vehicle
Yeah.
that they transport. They say they transport the children and the families to the beach and places, and then set up sort of a platform so that the kids can all go onto the beach, and quite lovely. I must be honest, was quite impressed with her.
And the children there, did they seem happy? The children that you saw there,
Yes, they seemed happy,
well looked after.
settled in.
And well looked after.
Yes.
So
I'd say it was a little bit short-staffed, and that was, hey, Carmen, what did you were a bit worried about that?
Yes, about the staff.
maybe they need an office manager.
Yes, maybe I should change my course and do something in that line.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. That so it seems to me that's not something that you want off the table. You want it on the table, the possibility.
Actually, sorry, just to go back to what Carmen was saying, her mother actually has a creche. So Carmen comes from
I see.
from a history of caring.
Caregiving. Yeah.
And it's interesting, very interesting.
So Carmen, the big question here is that because having your son with you, I can understand it's very important to you as a mother, but were you also aware that it's going to be really, really difficult and continue to be difficult for a very long time? Where are your thoughts on this? What would you want? And I'm asking you as well, Zane. You're also part of this discussion.
I want little Pete to be with me all the time, but if I could get an opportunity to go learn, do a course in nursing, ECD, to help children with these problems that Pete have, I would like and love to work at this institution.
Thank you for that, Zane. Your thoughts?
For me, for a change, I would like to see my wife happy again. I would like to see her doing something that she loves to do. I would like to see myself smile again, or and spend some time with my wife as well. Not worry too much about Pete for time to time. Maybe just having to know that he's safe, he's well taken care of. And even if she goes to study further, that will also be of great help, because then she'll have more knowledge regarding this.
There are a few concerns though, Jacques. You need to look at the longevity of this institution. What guarantees do we have that, how long is that going to last? Where's the money going to come from? And we need to specifically know and look at all the different scenarios. If we were to perhaps consider this, that all has to be spoken about. How long are they going to pay for?
Can I make a suggestion that I think we've reached a point in this mediation, it's possibly a good idea for me to get the other parties in here so that you can ask these questions. But I understand that in principle there's no objection to this idea, but there are aspects of it that needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
So you are saying that it's something to look at, but you first want to have more clarity on questions such as how long, what will happen. But I'm very curious about something that Carmen says, is that this is an area of field that she would like to work in, to caregiving, and if we can marry that with, if I'm not saying it's possible, because one will have to ask the hospital to find a way that you could maybe be trained, as you say, to be a caregiver in the CP environment. I mean, that could be quite a meaningful thing, and you earn an income, and you could be with your son whenever you have the opportunity. That would be the ideal outcome.
Yeah, perhaps in that respect, I mean, we have claimed for a caregiver, and if Carmen, you just obviously correct me here if I'm wrong, I'm just thinking of a scenario. If you could be working there, getting trained and earning a salary, I mean, that would be really first prize here, instead of us claiming for another. Okay, there's something interesting.
As you know, nothing is. We can keep on playing with these ideas. Just generating options. So nothing's fixed yet. So you mustn't feel fearful to put something on the table or to say that you're looking at this. Okay. Are you happy to do that? And
Yes.
if I call a joint session, I don't want to breach your confidentiality. Do I have your permission to say to them, while we're all together here, that you've just returned from the facility, you really like it, but there are issues that worry you, and then maybe, I see no reason why Carmen can't speak directly to them on this issue as well.
Yes.
And we can see what they come up with. I think we've reached a point where, if you feel comfortable with it, I'll bring us together in one room here. Carmen?
As long as, as you said earlier, it's without prejudice. So if we, no, I'm happy with it, Carmen. I think it's fine legally. I'd suggest you, or recommend that you just continue and say what you've just said. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Are you happy?
Yes, I'm
Okay. Thank you. Then I'm going to call them, and then we can have a continued joint session. Thank you for your patience. Everybody here, actually, it's somebody once said to go fast, you first have to go slow. And I think we're doing that. Just to make sure that, I've got permission to share this at this open session, that Carmen and Zane and Romany went to the institution. I thought it was a government institution, it's a private institution. They're very impressed by it. And so this is something that they would look at, and they just need to now sit with you and talk about the loose ends. And Carmen's got something on her heart as well that she wants to discuss.
This is before you deal with it. It's actually a public-private institution.
It's a public-private,
Quasi-funded by government.
so it's public-private.
But it's privately run, private controlled.
Oh, it's private control. I see. But am I right to say that you were really happy with what you saw there?
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right. So we've got that common ground between us here. Now, I'm just wondering who wants to go first. Alan, maybe a concern. Do you have a concern? Maybe you could express your concern about the longevity of.
Yes, Alan. I don't know if you know, but I mean, what sort of guarantees do we have here in terms of how long this institution is going to be open for, and also how long are you going to pay for it, or do we still? I mean, I have a report on life expectancy. Are you going to take that into account?
Yeah, I think, can I just clarify how the model that we think will work, and we'd like to put it on the table and discuss it with you. But as I've said, this is a public-private enterprise, so it's not wholly public, not wholly private. It's privately run, it's private, but it's been funded through the IDC. So we, as the government, do have some say on what facilities there are and how they're provided, but the infrastructure itself is provided by private people. And yes, nobody has any guarantees about the future, but this is not just private enterprise, it's not just a money-making thing. And how it will work is that the government will put money into a fund, a trust will be created to manage that fund, to invest those funds, and then out of the investment, through an actuarial calculation, we will determine the lifespan of PIT, how long PIT will live, and we will try and calculate exactly what it's going to cost over PIT's entire life to keep him in either that institution or a similar institution. Those funds will then be set aside, and so it will be in the form of an annuity almost, where the payments get made as and when they're needed. And we would like to see a trust established. We're very happy for Zane and Carmen to be trustees on that trust, provided there's also a third trustee, somebody like an advocate appointed by the chairman of the Bar Council or whoever, who will then assist them just in making sure that the investments are wisely made. And we would also like to see a clawback provision, so that if the estimate of PIT's lifetime is incorrect, that whatever's left in the fund gets paid back to government to look after similar children. Just give me a chance to finish. Just give me a chance to finish. If that happens, and then of course if the estimate is wrong and there's a shortage of funds because the amount that's put into trust is too little, then we as the government would be prepared to agree to a top-up arrangement. So there's a clawback if PIT doesn't need the money anymore, and there's a top-up if the estimate that is made on the basis of an estimated lifespan is too conservative, it'll be topped up. So PIT will always, for the rest of his life, have that kind of facility
I guess,
at his disposal.
Life expectancy doesn't become that important then. I mean, we would need to agree perhaps on a life expectancy in order to quantify.
Calculation. Yeah, it's just for the purpose of the initial fund. one needs to do
Alan,
that.
may I suggest, I do have a report from Strauss. As you know, we don't have an expert in this
No, we
country.
know him well. He's a very good
I
guy.
do have a report. Is there any chance, instead of postponing it and getting calculations in the future, that you may be able to look at the report now, and we can perhaps agree on the future life expectancy?
Yeah, look, as I've said, because of the clawback and the top-up arrangement, it doesn't matter if he's out for 5 years or whatever the case may be, because we won't be penalised and neither will your client.
Yes.
So it becomes less critical
Actually,
than it is in the normal case, and we would be happy to accept Strauss's prediction. I've seen that. I think it's something like 42 years or something.
Yes.
We're happy to work on that basis because
to.
it really, nobody's going to be prejudiced.
As you said, yeah.
It's just for the purpose
That's
of establishing the
really
initial
quite fair.
fund.
It's really quite fair. You're happy with that? Yeah. Okay.
So I think that would be a way, if you're happy with that, of taking care of the future medical expenses. Are there any other concerns?
Yes. To get back to my client and the fact that we need to still go quite a way in agreeing to this institution. I'm a little bit concerned. We haven't, we've been speaking about if we proceed to institutionalise Little Pit. I think that there's a huge concern from my client's point of view. Carmen, would you like to tell Ellen your thoughts and your feelings about being away from Little Pit?
For me, it's very hard to put Pit in this institution, but if it's for the best outcome, I will put my child in order for me to get a course to do, and maybe to get the opportunity to get a place in this institution to work where I can be with my child. Is it possible for me to do a course in that line?
Carmen, I think that definitely, to arrange for you to do a course wouldn't be difficult. Because this is a public-private institution, we do have a little bit of say, and I do also know that they are slightly understaffed at the moment. So I'm sure, Alicia, with your influence also, you could perhaps prevail upon the institution to perhaps give you a kind of an apprenticeship and additional training. I don't think that will be too difficult. And if it's made a precondition to the settlement, then we will discuss this with the institution and we will try and get you positioned there. So what you have in mind actually is that you will go and you will become one of the people that work there.
And how does the transport, how does apply transport for me?
But I think the main thing for you that you said is it'll give you a way to be with Pete the whole time.
Yes.
And, instead of us claiming for a caregiver, perhaps she could be paid a salary whilst she is learning. Okay, she's looking after Pete. She's learning from the other nurses and carers on how to look after these children, and then she's she can help Zane contribute to the family, in terms of some funds, and then we would be able to perhaps not worry about the cost of a carer then.
Okay. And perhaps would it affect some of your other claims as well? If we have, could we talk about those and we could play the one off against the other to an extent? We all want to be fair here. We're not suggesting anything that's not fair. But I think we will, if that's important to making this work.
Yes.
Then we'll go out of our way to secure that for you, and so that you can be the caregiver of your own child at that institution every single day that suits you, and then perhaps also help other parents with their children there too. How does that sound?
Can we speak then quickly about the other heads of damages?
Sure.
Past hospital and medical expenses. I have all the vouchers. Do you have any?
I've looked at all your vouchers and we don't dispute that.
Okay.
What
That's
is
great.
that amount? Did you make a note of it?
It's 10,500.
10,500. So
Yes.
there's agreement on that.
Yeah,
Okay?
Yes.
no, that's,
Alan, in terms of loss of earnings for Little Pete, we, as you know, have an industrial psychologist report and the educational psychologist report. It's very difficult at this time. Little Pete hasn't gone to school yet, so it's very difficult to assess, what he would have done or how he did, and also assess, but for this incident, whether
You sort of look at what the
He-
father
yes.
earns. And,
That's what
yeah.
my
What kind of
experts have
contingency
done.
do you have in mind?
Well, do you perhaps agree on the Patterson levels that
Yeah.
were used?
Yeah,
You
we'd
agree?
be happy to use that.
Then perhaps if we can use that same, and use about a 2.5 degree net discount rate on well, we're not going to actually be talking about that in terms of future meds anymore.
Don't
So
need
maybe we'll be a little bit more lenient in terms of contingencies.
Okay. What sort of factor are you looking at?
Well, generally, what percentage
What's
do
the
we?
most recent judgment allowed for on contingencies in similar circumstances?
It must have been the Rogers.
That's right.
Rogers.
Why don't we just accept that?
We said
And what is the contingency in that matter?
it was.
50%, I think. I'm not sure.
50%.
Whatever it was.
No, I'm happy with that too. I'm
We
happy
can
with
agree
that
on
too.
that.
Yes.
We don't have to
50%. Okay.
Whatever the Rogers case
Yes,
said. I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember either.
I'm not 100% certain because there were various contingency deductions and net discount rates applied there. And I can see now that because it's a very, very different ball game to what would be in court. So it takes away a whole lot of very difficult problems that we work. And then the last thing we need to look at is general damages for Pete.
That's for the pain and suffering.
What figure do you have in mind? Bearing in mind now he's going to be in an institution, we realise the last 2 years have been difficult
Yes.
and things are going to improve hugely for him as well.
Alan, that doesn't negate the fact
No,
that
I accept that.
he has pain.
I
He
accept
has
What number are you looking at here?
well, as we know, general damages are based on case law. The Rogers case, quite similar facts, was 1.8 million. So we might.
Could we settle on Rogers' case didn't have this facility, so can we settle on one?
I don't know about that. I'd have to speak to my clients.
Come back to us and give whatever's fair. We're not going to fight about it.
I would have to obviously get
All right.
get instructions from my clients in that respect.
So those are the heads of damages that we still need to resolve today. Is that right?
Yes, if I could perhaps just have
Costs?
fees and fees,
Costs?
The
That's
costs.
tax
Costs.
or agreed?
tax and agreed, I'm fine with that.
So the defendant offers to pay the cost.
Costs,
Yeah.
tax or agreed. There is, of course, your own client's claim for their pain and suffering. We appreciate that the last 2 years must have been very difficult for them. But I think with the opportunity that we're offering to bring a better life through the proposal that we're making, perhaps you'd consider 50% of what normally awarded. But we leave it in your hands. Come back to us on that.
I'll then
there's the
consult
two
with my
items.
clients on the general damages for both, or
Okay.
the pain and suffering and
Yeah.
and emotional
Yeah.
shock. If I could perhaps consult with them for 5 minutes and then
Can I be part of that?
yes, please.
Okay, so it's
please,
a
if you don't-
private session.
yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alan and Lisha. We'll.
Right. I just want to explain to you what's just happened. They have agreed now that perhaps this whole picture that we've now spoken about could possibly come true, where you go there every day, go to this institute and you work there, and you're with little Pete and you're actually being taught how to look after these children, and you're earning a salary. So I actually think it's quite a good deal. I really think it's a good deal. And you then, in the evenings, you will know that you will know the people that you work with, and you will know that he's been looked after. How do you feel about that? Are you, hey?
In a way.
Oh, and then you're going to have time together again. Oh, that'll be awesome. Now what they've asked us to look at is what's called general damages for pain and suffering and emotional shock and all of that. You have your portion, which we've claimed 250,000 each. They're saying, please, can we go down, because they have, given us quite a lot on the other hand with regards to a job for you and all of that, which they didn't need to do. And if we went to court, you wouldn't get that. You'd perhaps get a little bit of money, but now this is almost giving you a family life back. I actually think, I think this mediation thing is quite fascinating, because you don't have to stick to what the courts could offer, which is not only a little bit of money. And anyway, what I would recommend to you is that we perhaps decrease the amount for you, what you two would claim. They suggested 50%. Maybe we should go back with, say, 40%. That if they decrease, so we want 60% of your claim. I think that would be quite reasonable in the circumstances.
Is that 60% of the earning?
Of what we claimed. So we claimed 500,000 rand for both. So they said, could they decrease it by 50%? So we said 40%, so it's a little bit 60% in our favour. Then for little Pete, for his pain and suffering, we've claimed 1.8 million. And how do you feel? Is there anything that that you want or could picture?
This would help me maybe to get my driver's license in the car.
You wanted to, yes, I remember you said that.
But they're gonna be a distance from me, so I'll be able to drive there. I'll be able to drive her there.
Do you still have a car, or did you have to sell your car?
I had to sell my car because we couldn't cover all our costs with it being in this.
Perhaps how about we ask them if they'll provide you with a car and assist you in getting, well, you'll have time now to get your driver's license, not a car, and then we're willing to go down to R1 million for the general damages.
Yes, we can go for that.
Hey? Would that be acceptable? Hey? Okay. What do you think, Jacques? Is there anything that I've left out?
I'm just wanting to get my head around the numbers that you've got here. So you're saying that for the general loss, 60% of what?
So it's 250,000 rand each that we've claimed.
For both
for the plaintiffs,
okay,
yes.
so it's 6% of that.
Yes.
Have you done the sums, or don't you think you maybe you should just do the sums and it's done?
Okay, let me do that quickly.
What will 60% be of? Maybe I should just give me a moment.
There's quite a few different sums that we need to do.
Yeah. Can I go and ask them? Do I have permission to tell them that this is what you're looking at, and they can start making? So they can also start making the calculations.
Yes, yes. So if we could just recap that we will agree for the general damages of Pete to go down from 1.8 million to 1 million.
So from 1.8 is for Pete, huh?
Yeah.
From 1.8 to 1 million, okay. Plus car.
Yes.
Plus car. What
Plus
will be the value
car,
of the car?
I would say a general
Like
sedan.
200,000.
Let's say 250,000. 250,000.
Okay.
And also we are prepared to pay to give a reduction of 40% in terms of the two plaintiffs' claim for emotional shock.
Okay.
And perhaps if they can come back and let me know how they feel, then I will do my sums.
Yes, you do that,
and
so long.
then we can.
You do that. I'll do it first.
You happy?
Yes,
Okay.
we satisfied.
You happy? Okay, I'm just going to do the sums quickly.
Thank you. I think we've made real progress today, and there's few loose ends that need to be tied up, and the numbers that needs to be worked out. And I know that you're very experienced. So is Alan. Maybe you can start talking about that now. Try and.
Yeah. Alan, you asked us, if this is all in terms of the institution in place to reduce our other figures, which we've agreed on the past hospital medical expenses and the loss of earnings. And now the only thing in dispute, or that was in dispute, was general damages for Pete, little Pete, which we claimed 1.8 million. We are willing to go down to 1 million.
Okay.
And my clients, as you know, have claimed 250,000 rand each for their emotional shock claim. So we are willing to, obviously both of them together is 500,000. We're willing to go down to 300,000 there and $1 million with Pet's claim. However, we would like to ask if you agree to that, whether you'd be prepared to buy a new car for the family. This would assist. Zane had to sell his car initially, and he wants to get his driver's license. And Carmen does have a driver's license at this time, but perhaps then Zane could drop Carmen off in the mornings and pick her up in the evenings.
All right, what
And
sort
we
of
would
car
like-
are you looking at? What sort of money is that?
We were thinking between 200 and 250,000 rand for car.
So we're
So it must be a
1.5 actually altogether
family sedan.
on generals, is that right? 1.5?
No, 1.3.
Well, plus the 250.
Plus the
car.
250,
Effectively,
I
I'm
beg
putting
your
it in,
pardon.
yeah, I'm putting it
I
in,
beg
so
your
it's
pardon.
1.5.
Yes.
That falls within my mandate, and we can agree that.
And another thing I just want to make sure of is if we can go through everything very carefully, perhaps after this, and just make sure that everything that the institution offers, has been kind of ticked off in the future medical expenses schedule. I know there will be certain aspects that that they don't offer, and that it's going to be very different in a home
So
environment.
you want to postpone
But I
mediation,
just-
or what do
No,
you
I
want?
don't want to postpone it. I just want to make sure if we could, I don't know if you would be able to, you would be available, but if you could get the institution
I
in
think-
contact with us to.
Yeah, no, sure, we could do that. There is something that I do also need to add. I made it very clear that I do have a mandate, and I do, but there are certain statutory requirements that must be complied with. In terms of the PFMMA, as you're aware of, and
Yes.
obviously the contract has to be subject to that condition, but I don't foresee any problems with Treasury or with the Minister,
No,
because,
yes, I
because
don't
we are
think so.
going this route,
Yes.
and they know we are. So, subject to that, I think we have an agreement, and Romney, we would be perfectly happy if you draft the agreement based on the terms that we've agreed today, and let me have a copy of it, and I'll sign it, and so we have an agreement.
We
I think
essentially
that's
we do.
incredible.
We do. So
That's amazing.
you don't want us to just to prepare a rough. I would assume it's good enough that you do exactly what you say now. Is that you'll draft the agreement and you'll present it to
Yes.
Alan to have a look at.
I think we've got the figures sorted,
Absolutely.
and I definitely. And are you happy? I
Are
think you can see
Very
from
nice.
my clients' facial expressions that
Good.
they are
Thank you.
thrilled with how this has worked out.
I'm very pleased about it.
And Leisha, you?
Yes, I'm very pleased, and I'm so pleased that they at least have a smile on their faces now. They've got some
So we're
closure.
moving towards the end of the. Just maybe briefly, before we adjourn, we know now that you lawyers are going to put everything to paper. So, but just let us just maybe reflect on the experience of mediation. I want to start off with Carmen. Was it a positive experience? How did you?
I feel very great about the outcome,
Okay.
and that it is an institution where I can be with him,
Okay.
and yes, I'm very thankful for that.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. Alain?
Firstly, I love my wife, I love my son, and I'm gonna love them even more now. Secondly, I'm very thankful for the outcome of today. I think this is a platform to thank our attorney. You were great. And then also Mediation in Motion. I think they've been good. And also, let's not forget the state. When we came in here, we were furious with you guys, but now I think we've cooled down 60 to 70%. So we're actually good. Today's experience it was a lot quicker and faster. It wasn't lengthy at all, and we're very grateful for that. I hope in future from the hospital and the state side that you'll be more careful, you'll be more thorough. So yeah, thank you very much.
What I'd like to add, Zane, thank you for that, and Carmen, thank you very much for your positive comments. We would like, as the department, permission from you to take what's happened to you and to take it back to all the hospitals as an education program so that it doesn't happen anywhere else. Would you give us permission to refer to the facts of your case in order to do that?
We can anonymise
If
your
I-
name.
And we
if
can
you
take it
can,
to SASOG,
please.
and so that SASOG can also communicate with all relevant stakeholders so that this
Yeah.
doesn't happen again.
Seeing there's a minor involved, if we could please keep all
No,
parties
no,
anonymous.
Yeah, we can do that. Thank
then
you.
I think that, yes.
It was your first mediation?
Hell, Alan, why didn't you tell me about this sooner?
There you go. I knew you'd be a convert, Roman.
Yeah, well, I'm very excited, and I feel like a real lawyer today. And
That's great.
I thank you very much for this, and thank you to my opponents for being so reasonable. And yes, I've been very humbled by this process, and
Good.
thank you very much, Jacques, for assisting us.
Good. Okay, so we've reached the end. Of today. Thank you very much. And if there are any problems, Alan, Romy, you'll contact me.
Yes, yes.
I'm more than willing to help. And
Shall we
assist
leave the mediation open until
Probably,
the written
probably.
agreement is signed?
I think so.
So we can
yes.
call on you
Perhaps-
anytime if
Perhaps you
needs be.
can put a date on it.
As soon as you can draft it, we won't take me more than 2 days. to get it.
Today's Thursday. I'll have it by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Well, good lass.
Perhaps.
I know you to be very efficient, Romy. That's excellent.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
It was
you.
great having
Thank
you.
you.
I'll say.
Alan,
Are you happy?
I flipped over. Let's be honest.